To assert that the son of a slave is born a slave is to assert that he is not born a man. The moment the people is legitimately assembled as a sovereign body, the jurisdiction of the government wholly lapses. With enough leverage, a finger could overturn the world, but to support the world, one must have the shoulders of Hercules. The sovereign, merely by virtue of what it is always what it should be. There is no evildoer who could not be made good for something. Tranquility is found also in dungeons, but is that enough to make them desirable places to live in? When the whole people decrees for the whole people, it is considering only itself. Everything conspires to take away from a man who is set in authority over others the sense of justice and reason. If there were a nation of gods, it would govern itself democratically. A government so perfect is not suited to men. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. In truth, laws are always useful to those with possessions and harmful to those who have nothing. Government is an intermediate body set up between the subjects and the sovereign, to secure their mutual correspondence. There is no subjection so perfect as that which keeps the appearance of freedom. To renounce liberty is to renounce being a man, to surrender the rights and duties of humanity. What man loses by the social contract is his natural liberty and an unlimited right to everything he tries to get and succeeds in getting. What he gains is civil liberty and the proprietorship of all he possesses. The right of conquest has no foundation other than the right of the strongest. There is often a great deal of difference between the will of all and the general will. It is easier to conquer than to administer. Under bad governments, this equality is only apparent and illusory. It serves only to keep the pauper in his poverty and the rich man in the position he has usurped. The strongest is never strong enough to be always the master, unless he transforms that strength into right. Whoever blushes confesses guilt, true innocence never feels shame. Insults are the arguments employed by those who are in the wrong. Plants are shaped by cultivation and men by education. What wisdom can you find that is greater than kindness? Falsehood has an infinity of combinations, but truth has only one mode of being. It is not possible for minds degraded by a host of trivial concerns to ever rise to anything great. You forget that the fruits belong to all and that the land belongs to no one. When something an affliction happens to you, you either let it defeat you, or you defeat it. We are reduced to asking others what we are. We never dare to ask ourselves. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. One can buy anything with money except morality. We are born, so to speak, twice over, born into existence, and born into life, born a human being, and born a man. I would rather be a man of paradoxes than a man of prejudices. Happiness, a good bank account, a good cook, and a good digestion. Why should we build our happiness on the opinions of others, when we can find it in our own hearts? Conscience is the voice of the soul, the passions are the voice of the body. Every man has the right to risk his own life in order to save it. Absolute silence leads to sadness. It is the image of death. Nature never deceives us, it is we who deceive ourselves. When a man dies, he clutches in his hands only that which he has given away during his lifetime. In Genoa, the word libertas can be read on the front of prisons and on the fetters of galley slaves. The application of this motto is fine and just. The more I examine the work of men and their institutions, the more I see that in seeking independence they make themselves slaves. It is believed that physiognomy is only a simple development of the features already marked out by nature. In a well-governed state, there are few punishments, not because there are many pardons, but because criminals are rare. Political writers argue in regard to the love of liberty with the same philosophy that philosophers do in regard to the state of nature. Those people who treat politics and morality separately will never understand either of them. Government in its infancy had no regular and permanent form. If the magistracy is hereditary, a community of men is often governed by a child. It is when a state is in decay that the multitude of crimes is a guarantee of impunity. The body politic, taken individually, may be considered as an organized, living body, resembling that of man. She was dull, unattractive, couldn't tell the time, count money or tie her own shoelaces. But I loved her. When citizens would rather serve with their money than with their persons, the state is not far from its fall. Philosophy teaches us to bear with calmness. Slaves lose everything in their chains, even the desire of escaping from them. Too much effort to increase our happiness transforms it into misery. I have never believed that man's freedom consisted in doing what he wants, but rather in never doing what he does not want to do. Trust your heart rather than your head. The words slavery and right are contradictory, they cancel each other out. In the purely civil profession of faith, the sovereign should fix the articles as social sentiments. I love too sincerely, too completely, I venture to say, to be able to be happy easily. Love, known to the person by whom it is inspired, becomes more bearable. What good would it be to possess the whole universe if one were its only survivor? The greatest braggarts are usually the biggest cowards. Rather suffer an injustice than commit one. For it is in our nature to endure patiently the decrees of fate, but not the ill will of others. Beware of listening to this impostor. You are undone if you once forget that the fruits of the earth belong to us all, and the earth itself to nobody. Every artist wants to be applauded. There are always four sides to a story: your side, their side, the truth, and what really happened. Gratitude is a duty which ought to be paid, but which none have a right to expect. The world of reality has its limits, the world of imagination is boundless.